talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. And today my guest is Brenden from MasterTalk, and he's here today to discuss with me how to master the art of public speaking. Welcome, Brenden. How are you?
I'm great, Rose. How about yourself?
Pretty well, thank you. So Brenden is the founder of MasterTalk. It's a YouTube channel he started to help the world master the art of public speaking and communication, and he coaches purpose-driven entrepreneurs on how to master their message and share their ideas with the world. And Brenden is also passionate about helping others achieve rocket-level success, whether it's helping others overcome their fear of public speaking, helping startups with their pitch to raise capital, or his current role at IBM helps clients transition to better technology solutions to help them do business better. Wow, that's pretty good, eh? It's a good job working for IBM.
We're doing what we can, Rose. We're doing what we can. I appreciate it.
How's the COVID affected you in Canada?
Yeah, I think in many ways, like if you think about it from a personal perspective, I don't get dinners any with my friends, which isn't so great. But I think from a professional perspective, when you wake up overnight to a 70% of loss of revenue, things aren't too great, since most of my revenue from the MasterTalk side came from speaking engagements. But I think the message that I'd love to share with people is people need to understand who the real enemy is, Rose. And at the end of the day, the real enemy isn't the people who cut us off in traffic, isn't the people that we love, even sometimes we'd like to think they are. The enemy is time. And if we start to think that 2020 is canceled, as if you can go back to a bank and get a loan for it, then we'll have to adapt and figure out how we can reinvest that time in the way that I hopefully did correctly.
Yeah, my role, other than doing these vodcasts, is to help speakers transition to an online business. So and I think that's the way forward. I've become I guess I classify myself as a hybrid speaker expert, where speakers need to transition themselves and become hybrid. They need to be able to do online and offline because of this situation that the world finds itself in. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the lesson here for anyone who's listening is to always prepare for the worst case scenario, especially in entrepreneurship. If you don't understand what the worst case is and it ends up happening, well, you're not in a good spot. Though I will give credit to some people here, no one really expected this to happen, but at the same time, now that we know, at least the bright side of this is we're only going up from here. And if we always keep that positive mindset, since being a pessimist doesn't get you anywhere in life anyways, you'll be able to keep moving forward.
Yep. So you also say that you're an avid learner and listening to an average of 10 hours of podcast a week. Wow. So what kind of podcasts are you listening to?
Yeah, that's good research on your end. Yeah, I'm a pretty nutcase when it comes to learning. And I think the reason I do this is to learn as many perspectives of life as possible so I can derive my own decisions. So for example, I'm sure you've probably realized that I'm fairly young, right? I started coaching C-level executives when I was only 23. And I think the reason behind that success, despite the experience, is because I've just been a voracious learner. I spend hours on end listening to podcasts like Lewis Howes' School of Greatness, Eric Weinstein's The Portal, Seth Godin's Akimbo, and the list goes on and on and on. I am a podcastaholic. I definitely have a problem with that. I'm always learning all the time in the hopes that I learn something from those great, amazing people.
Yeah. You also list amongst your accomplishments and personal skills and attributes is that you led a construction SaaS deal during the time in venture capital, leading to investment of $25,000. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, I think so. So for those who don't know, what venture capital is essentially is this is what I used to do before IBM. is you pick startups, so emerging companies like Apple, like they used to be a startup, things like that, and you invest risk capital to determine and whether or not they become successful as companies. So essentially you go through a bunch of companies and you determine which companies make the most sense for an investment, which ones don't. So I did that for a living for a year, which was so much fun. I learned a lot about different deals and how deal flow works. But I think what led to MasterTalk is I realized, especially in the context of technology anyways, or even speakers, is that a lot of great technical founders, people who are great at technology, are really bad at communicating their ideas to people. You go up to a PhD in technology and you go, "What are you up to?" And he's like, or she is like, "Oh yeah, we got to do this," and you're just lost after 2 seconds. Like, "Whoa, slow down. I didn't have my tea this morning. Let's relax, take a break." So that's mostly what drove me to make free videos for those individuals so they can learn and grow.
Yeah. So share with us a little bit about Master Talk. What exactly is it? And yeah, and just share some tips and how people can better their public speaking or communication in general.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. So MasterTalk is a YouTube channel that I essentially started in my basement to help people with their communication and public speaking skills. And then one thing led to another. The YouTube channel grew really quickly, and I was able to transition to something more professional when it comes to editing and just production in general. But I think the idea that I want to parlay to people is if you have an idea worth sharing, whether it's a cooking recipe, whether it's something you want to share with people, whether it's a big company, public speaking is the element that allows you to scale those ideas from a small group of people in your community to millions of people around the world. I always say to people that the best way to communicate a message is through video, is through podcasting, is through speaking, because it allows you to reach a lot more people for the limited time that you have on earth. And that's how you scale an idea to many different types of people. And the one piece of advice that I have for most people listening, since most of you are business owners, is you want to practice what I call the repeatable presentation. The mistake that all business owners make is they try and create 30 different presentations about 30 different subjects, and they never get incrementally better at public speaking because they're always developing new content. Whereas what the best speakers in the world do is they present one or two topics, but they present it hundreds of times until it hurts. So that when they're at their 375 times, or the 75th time rather, the way that they speak, everything is timed, everything is perfect. And it's that confidence level that allows them to speak about anything to anyone.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I guess if you're just a small business owner, because I know we live in different countries, so the understanding about what small is to us is like 1 to 20. So for that type of business owner, communication, how could they better communicate with their employees? You know, because I know a lot of business owners aren't really great at it. What sort of ways could they do that better?
Right. So one easy trick I can give for that niche, I know it's hard to hear, but I guarantee you it will change the way that you look at the business and how to move it forward. If you have less than 20 employees, I recommend taking a day out of your schedule as the CEO and meet all 20 people individually. And understand their needs, understand what they want out of the company, understand their goals, their dreams, their aspirations, and that's how you get the most out of them. That is not only how you know what their incentive is or what their expectations of their jobs and to how to please them essentially in the role that they have, but also understanding their communication style. The first person might walk up to you and go, "Hey Rose, I'm really nervous and this is happening, this." So that way you can practice your mirrorings. But if you start yelling at her and you go, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," and then you're just like, "Whoa," then everyone's just gonna go, "Hey, relax a bit." The opposite is also true. The person comes up to you and says, "Hey Rose, how's it going?" and you're yelling at the same time. That's how you mirror energy. So what this allows you to do, this exercise, especially if you're getting started, is it really allows you to hone in on what each of your employees' personality types are and how they communicate. Then after every single meeting, what you do is you take a 5-minute break and you just write down, "Okay, Rose, this is how she communicates. This is how she likes to get feedback. This is who she is as a person. These are her goals." That exercise, 90% of people, if not 95% of business owners, don't do, and it goes a long way.
Wow, that's a really great tip, and I think when people listen to it, they might, as you say, be quite surprised that that's something that they should be doing in their business and they're not doing at all. So getting back to speakers generally during this time in 2020, how could they, I guess, upscale their business? What sort of, ideas could you put forward for that?
Yeah, the way that I thought about it, it's going to be different for everyone else, is usually there's obviously the easy route, hopefully if you have the right relationships in place, which is to pivot to virtual events, right? Give professional keynotes virtually, dress better, get lighting, upgrade your audio like I have over the last couple of months. You can do podcasts, things like that. But the other thing that not many people focus too much on is you want to pivot your business from a speaking business to a coaching business. And the reason is because in general, not all event planners, but a good percentage of them aren't paying the same fees that you would have otherwise if you were in person. So a lot of your revenue is still going to get hit if you do the same number of events. So what I did, that my business coach had a really good idea of that I usually never had time for, was to start a kids coaching program. So I have a high-end kids coaching program where I train a lot of my executives as kids on public speaking. But given my age, it's a very interesting competitive niche because no one really does that, because most speech coaches are double or triple my age. So it's an interesting niche, and we were able to build a pretty decent revenue stream just off of that. So I think what I recommend people is to pivot from a speaking business to a coaching business. And the best way to do that is to figure out of everything that you provide in your topics, what is the one result that you can deliver over the span of 8 to 12 weeks that people will pay for and share with other people.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah, I don't think anyone. I mean, I hadn't even thought of that either, and to promote that as a a new skill, I guess. So, what is there any extra skills that they would need to acquire to be able to do that?
Here's my thinking, Rose. Usually speakers are, I'm talking about really good speakers, not like if you're just a speaker, right? I'm talking if you're a professional speaker making at least $50,000, $75,000 in revenue, something like that, at least. If you're at that level, you already have the most important quality of any coach, which is empathy. You understand, you're empathetic to what your audience wants. That's why you're obsessive about all the little vocal modulations, the silences, the pauses to engage the people around you. In the same way I'm engaging you this fine Monday morning, so you get your day started with an energetic boost. So all you need to do, especially if there's a guilt that you have where it's like, I don't want to charge people for coaching or done that, then just do what I do. Coach 2 to 3 people for free and get them to yell your praise. And if they're yelling your praise, that will give you confidence to start paying for coaching. Like the first 4 years, this is before I started MasterTalk, or I started a business really. I was coaching people for free on public speaking. I was just like, hey, but I was helping people in my competition program at school. But then I got really good. So then when I coached CEOs, I started, charging rates, and the rates started going up a lot faster than I thought they would. And now I'm very comfortable charging those rates because they get results that are 10, if not 100 times more effective than the fee that they pay me. So for you, if you're a leadership speaker, if you're a finance speaker, if you're a health speaker, all of those speaking topics transition extremely well into coaching topics. You could be a leadership coach. You could be a life coach. You could be a health coach. You could be a confidence coach. And the second part of that framework, once you figure out what your niche is model other people. Go look up health coaches that you admire. Go look up leadership coaches that you admire and take what they do and ask yourself what you can do better than they already have to offer. And since you're new to the space and you're cheaper, it should be great. Because remember, even if you're charging, a couple $100 an hour or, whatever the charge rate is, if you change somebody's life in 3 sessions, was it worth the fee? And most of the people that you'll coach, if not all of them, will always say yes.
That is heaps interesting. Yeah, I don't, your philosophy on this whole thing, I mean, I probably could talk to you for hours about this. This is really interesting. So we came together through Matchmaker, which is a bit like, what's the other one that they use? I can't remember now. Source Bottle. Yeah, so I put a call out to you, and I was watching your video, and it really got me intrigued about, how you were coaching people in that video, basically on public speaking and pausing and so forth. So just take me through, if you remember that video, if you just take me through that that training about, you know, from start to finish, and there was three things that really, I think there was pretty much three steps.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happily share some of those tips in the video. So here are a couple of things that I share in the channel. So the first one that I talk about in the video I sent you is this idea of silences. How do we pause more effectively to convey a message that matters to us? The way that we do that is by replacing, or by forcing ourselves to silence for longer periods of time. So if we can do that, it gives us the confidence over time to say less and to pause more. So one exercise that I have is super simple. No one will do it, but if you do it, it'll skyrocket your skills. Go to someone that you love in your house right now, or somebody around you, and gaze in their eyes for 3 minutes and don't say a thing. It's really hard. I get a lot of my executives to do that. They've been married for 15, 20 years. They can't even look at their wife in their eye for 3 minutes straight. It's really hard. It's really interesting. I find it fascinating. But even if this seems weird, what this does is it increases your confidence level with pauses. Because if you can pause for 3 minutes, it's a lot easier to pause for 3 to 5 seconds when you want to give a point, when you want to emphasize a message. Number 2, ums and ahs, filler words. Blah, blah.
Yeah, I have that ums and ahs issue. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's always funny, Rose, when I always come on shows, the host is always self-conscious because they think I'm evaluating them on the side as I'm answering questions, which isn't the case. Don't worry. Don't be alarmed. But the point
I'll
that I'm
ask you out of 10 after we finished, okay?
You're always an 11. Don't worry, Rose. Always. Of course. But for filler words, the only thing that really matters is pauses and filler words are intertwined. If you get better at silences, if you're comfortable looking at people for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, when it's time for you to say a filler words, you'll start slowly replacing them with silences. Because remember, filler words only appear when we forget what we want to say next. What was it again? What was I supposed to say? But if we say nothing instead, that is how we replace ums and ahs with silences. Number 3, and then we'll leave it at that. Then you can watch the rest on the channel. But the idea is audience mastery, right? At the end of the day, the quality of your presentation lives and dies by how engaged your audience is. Everyone can present great content. I could go on Wikipedia, you could go on Wikipedia, search public speaking tips, and come to a podcast and go, hi, Rose. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about, not really exciting, right? If you have great content but your delivery is poor, people are snoozing, right? And if you don't believe me and you think content is so important, I want you all to think about your high school presentations and recite to me everything that you learned. And you might fall a bit short. You might actually remember nothing. And that's the point that I'm driving. All of those people are really well educated, really smart. But if the delivery isn't there, then nothing gets heard. So remember, be obsessive about your audience. The next time you present to an audience, think about what the goal is. What are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying to sell something? Are we trying to educate the people around us? Are we trying to share something that matters and our attentions change? Number 2, who is our audience? I present to senior level executives at Fortune 500 companies, and I also present to 10-year-old Rebecca. Same content, different needs and expectations. When Rebecca is tugging my shirt at the end of the workshop, she's not asking for my advanced booklets on how to master public speaking. She's asking for a boost of confidence, right? So when she asks me for tips, what she's really saying is, Brenden, my whole life, my whole 9-10 years of living, nobody told me I was a great speaker. Could you be the first one? But when I'm talking to Tim or Julia, who's a 56-year-old executive at a company, she doesn't really care about the boost in confidence. She just wants results, and she wants them yesterday. And I just went, wait, that doesn't make sense in the English language. I was like, what are you saying, Julia? But anyways, that's the point. You know, Julia wanted results yesterday. So I was like, okay. So the way that I talk to her is a lot more formal and professional. Number 3, how do we get people to be excited to share our ideas? If people just know our ideas, that's not enough. They'll go, oh, Brendan's a great guy. Rose's podcast is okay. But if we have unique personalities, if we deliver the message that we have in a fun, quirky way, in the way that I'm currently doing now in my mother's basement, there's something about me that you can't put a finger on that makes you want to remember me, right? That's the key. If you're able to communicate a mundane topic like communication in a way that gets people excited, then maybe you'll be able to spread your ideas too.
Okay, so one of the other points I was really interested in was eye contact with you on stage. How do you actually maintain eye contact with your audience without, do you just pick out one person, or, do you move around the stage and, maintain eye contact with everybody? How does that work?
Yeah, of course. So let's keep it simple for today, since most people are not going to be presenting in person for a long time. But what I will say is that the difference between in-person and virtual is that in the virtual world, Rose, we can't gauge your audience's reaction anymore. So let's say I was in Australia and I was giving you and your team a workshop in person. And I'm, gazing into people's eyes, I'm doing workshops, I'm doing things like that. In that situation, if I tell a joke, two things will happen. One, you'll either laugh at the joke and say, oh, haha, this Brenden guy from Canada is really funny. Or, which is more likely to happen, number two, you look at him and you'll say, this guy is not funny. This guy should really not be telling jokes. He's just not. He just doesn't get it. You're like, why isn't he wearing a suit? He's so bizarre. But either way, I get the real-time feedback and I can adjust accordingly. I can adjust the way that I speak. I don't have that luxury in the virtual world. Even in this very conversation that we're having now, I have no clue how you're reacting to me because I'm not looking at you, Rose. I'm looking at the camera lens of my laptop. But in a Zoom call, when you're talking to 20 people instead of two or one person, what happens is you can't gauge anybody's reaction. So the same joke that I told in person, I need to say with the same energy, the same positivity, the same rigor, and assume it's funny. And that is the difference. So what are some of the tricks that you master this? Obviously for eye contact, simple. Just keep your eyes on the lens. Very simple for today. But the other part is, how do you present better in a world where there's no audience, right? I'm literally in my basement as I talk to you, right? So the way that you do this is you want to imagine the perfect in-person audience. When I was on my first podcast, and this applies to presentations, it's really bizarre because you're sitting there and you're wondering, why is a stranger asking me questions about my life? This is so bizarre. But over time, as you do more shows or you do more presentations, you say, hey, wait a second. If Rose woke up so early in the morning to do a podcast with me, she probably cares a lot about her audience and adding value to them. So I'm going to assume that Rose is someone that I've known for a long time, and I'm going to assume that she's a well-intentioned individual. That comes with time. Over and over as you present online and you slowly get positive feedback, that assumption gets reinforced.
Well, that is absolutely an awesome explanation. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
So, Brenden, where can people find you other than YouTube?
Yeah, so I always like to start with the YouTube. If you want to get in touch, that's probably the best way. It's MasterTalk in one word. If you want all my public speaking tips for another couple more hours, you can check that out. And if you want to send me a message directly and get in touch, Instagram's the best way of doing that. So I'm at Master Your Talk. So you can send me questions or comments. I'm always happy to engage.
Beautiful. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure talking with you this morning, this evening, whatever. I'll let you go and have your dinner if you haven't had it already.
That's very kind of you, Rose. Wishing you well.
All right. Okay. Thank you again. And hopefully we'll talk again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Brenden.
Take care.